Hi, and welcome back for day 7. We are at the week mark of 365 days of art. Nori is now pretty sure anytime I sit down for this intro that directly means snuggle time, so he will probably be in the beginning of most of my videos now, won't you? Yep, he's pretty okay with that. So, for today's project, I want to try acrylic pouring, which means we need to get that going because I'm gonna have to give that plenty of time to dry, which was a big thing in planning out my day today. I don't know how you guys plan out yours, but I almost got stuck in a loop of I woke up and was walking around the house and was like, oh shoot, I need to do that and that and that and that and that. Took a moment, stepped outside, took in a deep breath, and was like, okay, what actually needs to get going right now? And as far as art-wise, I was like, all right, well, whatever I'm doing artistically needs to dry first. And while it's drying, I can move around the house and do everything else and set up a plan for that. So I don't know about you, but when I feel like I have too many things to do or don't want to do and I don't actually plan it out, nothing gets done because I just kind of paralyze and I just sit there for an hour, not even playing a game or anything productive that I could be like, oh, I just needed to chill out a little bit. No, I just waste time. So if you suffer from that like I do, timers are your best friend. It'll take away the stress of whatever activity you're doing. If you have an appointment that you know you need to leave the house by or whatever, set yourself a timer. It helps me so much. And then it's a learning curve of willing to wait for that timer. Because when I first started doing that in the back of my head, my anxiety kept going. Did it go off? It didn't go off. You totally missed it. Maybe you didn't set it and then you check it about 5,000 times and you don't enjoy what you're doing anyway. So, learning curve, but hi. As you can see, I wanted to show you guys, it's not completely opaque, that's fine. I'm gonna put another color over it, but look at the potential of this now newly blanked out canvas that was so stressful because it wasn't going the way I wanted it to. Well, now we're just gonna do something new and fun with it. Let's get started on today's project. I'm not an expert at acrylic pouring, so I promise nothing about how this is going to turn out, but some things I do know. Paper won't work because it just absorbs it and it becomes a gray, awful mess no matter what it looked like while it was drying. It's another huge thing. When you're doing acrylic pour, you really don't know what it's gonna look like until the very end. You want something for your excess paint to run off the sides. I have literally just an old baking sheet, a wire rack, and then I took the canvas that I've been using and I just added it to kind of this flimsy plastic backing just so that my canvas wouldn't kind of fall into the holes here. If you're doing it in a way that you want to save it, because I don't know whether or not the tape on the side might kind of mar the actual finished product. Normally when I do it on stretched canvas. I've never had an issue with the canvas bowing in the middle and kind of pooling in the middle. I know some people have had problems with that. With that being the case, some people like to do it on boards or on wood, on something just very durable. I don't know, maybe you could do it on a larger piece of regular canvas kind of backed like this and then stretch it over a stretcher frame if you were that advanced and are stretching your own canvas. That's not something I've really bothered with just yet. Oh, here's my setup. We're ready to go with this. Today's project is going to be done all in different shades of brown because when I stepped outside today, that was my inspiration. I saw these really gorgeous leaves that were growing in a vine that went from like this blue-green all the way to this really gorgeous yellow-green that I want to paint on over top. And then I noticed the different wood grain in the fence and I thought, you know, that looks kind of like what you do when you get an acrylic pour, right? So rather than trying to paint that grain, I'm just gonna see if I can't create it. And originally I had picked out my Arteza colors. I had raw sienna, Van Dyke brown, and burnt umber. However, everyone does their acrylic pour differently. And I like to use a lot of paint in mine because I like a lot of pigment. And I don't necessarily want to use up my kind of better paints on that. You can, and there's definitely no shame in that. However, this is where acrylic pouring becomes very daunting for some people that want to get into it because you watch the videos and you're like, all of that paint runoff, no, I could never justify using up that much paint? Well, you can really do acrylic pouring with hobby paints, which I think is fantastic. So, really common brand that you've probably seen is the Master's Touch Acrylic. So I decided for my raw sienna, I would just use a tiny bit of burnt sienna mixed with some yellow ochre. For my Van Dyke brown instead, I'm just gonna use a raw umber. And then for my burnt umber, I do actually have burnt umber. You can mix them with water. I've mixed them with water before, and we may still add a little bit. This is the cheap stuff that you can just get at Home Depot. I highly recommend it rather than spending the money on acrylic pouring mediums that you will find at Hobby Lobby or Michael's, any sort of craft store. Just go to your local Lowe's, Home Depot, hardware store, and find this. This is so much cheaper. One of the other things that you can add, I've personally never added the silicone to any of my mixtures. I've just added, this is literally just generic brand rubbing alcohol, and all it takes is a couple of drops, and if you add that to your mixture, that's where you can actually get some of those circles, those cells that you'll see. So let's give this a try. I've got my 3 colors, starting with my base, kind of just regular brown color. Again, I promise nothing with how this is going to turn out. This is actually my first time doing it this way. Normally I've done the dirty cup pour, where you pour them all into 1 cup, kind of layering them, and then just dump them on the center and see what you get. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow. Today though, I'm trying to see if I can get an actual pattern. So we are just gonna let this, I'm just gonna try this. Ooh. Spiral is okay. Separate little mixer thing. Now, I didn't pour any alcohol into that medium brown. I just poured it, or I didn't pour any alcohol into this dark one. So I don't know how that's going to change it, but it might. We are going to add some more of this. But you really never know. How they're going to turn out, because it keeps the colors kind of subtle. You know, all the different pigments and everything have different weights, and depending on the way that you mix them in the cups, that'll change it. I kind of don't want to pick it up now. I don't want to ruin it. You guys are going to be just like me when I watch acrylic pour videos and you're like, no, I wanted you to stop there. I liked it. Okay. You know what? We're not going to pick it up. We're actually just going to let it, we're going to let it do its thing. I'm just going to kind of, nope, I don't want to touch it. I keep thinking, I'm just going to, you know, do it. Okay, I am. I'm just going to do a, because I do want it to kind of swirl. So I'm just going to cause more of a swirl than what was already going on. And then it can just do its own thing. But I do want swirls, like the rings on a tree. And we're going to see what happens. I'm going to do this because I don't want to paint the sides. We're going to, nope, okay, abandon that. Abandon that idea. Don't do that. Don't. And just go. How do people get it to cover the whole thing? Does it just keep? Nope, I'm just not gonna. Ooh, okay. Don't touch it. Just don't touch it. No touch. I will come back when this is dry and we will see exactly what we're gonna get while it dries. So as you can see, I took it off of the plastic I had it taped to. I had been running around, came back, and it was actually bubbled up like this, like it was bowed. So I untaped it from that to let it finish drying the rest of the way. There's no point in trying to make it dry any faster. It's just gonna do what it's gonna do. I can tell around the edges where it's already started to dry, and it definitely darkens up a lot. And part of that could be I only put one layer of gesso on this, so it's definitely absorbing into the canvas a little bit more than it has on the stretched canvas that I've done before. So what we're gonna do instead is we're gonna do a couple more pours today, and then I can work with them for the next couple of days getting them done. So we're just kind of prepping. One thing that I wanted to do on this one is this is going to be another kind of wood colored one, because I came down and what I saw was that the one that had poured through the mesh down onto even just this down here onto the metal started to look very wood grainy, and I thought that was really, really cool. So I am literally just going to pour with the colors over this and see what happens. It might do it. It might also decide to completely ignore my attempts. I'm out of Floetrol and I didn't want to run to the store. So I went ahead and did this next mixture with just titanium white so I didn't use up too much of my colors. Of course I used more colored paint, and then I added glazing medium. You'll notice already that it really kind of dulled the color. I mixed attempted to mix very similar colors as last time, but that titanium white just really takes away that color. So what we're gonna do is just try. Again, this might not work at all. I have no idea. Doing more of a back and forth this time. I'm not seeing a lot of difference between this one and the other one, I'm not gonna lie. I think the idea was there. You know, I can do this while they're still really wet, but it doesn't necessarily do a whole lot because they will still settle. I didn't tape this one, it is on some metal, so hopefully I could pick it up. And maybe we'll just yeah, that's kind of fun. I want to keep that back and forth, so I'm trying not to. All right, look at that. I guess that's kind of the crazy thing about acrylic is that it looks really cool, but like you guys already saw where the other one had already changed a lot as it started to dry, they just always dry different. And that's part of why I didn't want to try to ruin the drying process and speed it up or give it any sort of excuse to not come out how it's gonna come out, because I've watched YouTube videos where I watch them do something, I'm like, that looks really cool. But at the end when they're like, hey, this is the finished product, like right now I could tell you guys, hey, this is my finished product. And I already know it's not gonna look like this when it dries. It's just not. You just can't tell until it actually dries. So that's why I wanna be really honest with you guys. We're gonna do a couple of these and I'm gonna show you tomorrow exactly what they look like when they have fully cured, when they have dried all the way. We're gonna set this aside and I'll be right back to do some rainbow. I am back with all of my rainbow colors, very excited. Just so you know, this time I didn't add any titanium white to dilute the colors. I added just the paint, and then since I haven't been impressed with it anyway, I added the glazing medium to it instead of the titanium white to make it go a little bit further, since that at least didn't dilute the color when I had used it before. And water to make it, just because the glazing medium itself didn't make it quite thin enough for pouring. Let's see what happens. Again, I don't know, I make no promises on this turning out any sort of way. This could totally just go terrible. And this time, we're just gonna let some dots happen too. Okay. Red, orange. Oh, and I added alcohol to every other color, so I didn't add it to the red, I added it to the orange. I did not add it to the yellow. Yeah, as you can see, I got a little excited when I was mixing. Some of my green already fell into my yellow. No alcohol in the yellow, there is alcohol in the green. Do a little more green. And as you can see, 100%, this might just push all my other colors off the table. You know me, I really love my red. I don't have any red left though. So we are just gonna bring any excess colors that we have. This looks really cool right now. I would hope it would look cool later, but we don't know what it's gonna do. It might look like nothing later. Just one big giant mess. I personally like doing that. Trying to keep all my splatter to the table so that I am not in trouble later. All right, I think that is going to be completely covered. Whew. I'm not going to touch it. I'm not going to swirl anything. We are just going to let this dry and let it do exactly whatever it's going to do. You can see this is what it looks like. Immediately wet, poured. It's probably going to look completely different as soon as it dries. So that concludes everything for today. We have 3 backgrounds drying. Hopefully nothing gets in them. That's kind of the biggest thing when you do an acrylic pour is you've got such thick paint and you're waiting for it to dry, so you hope no dust gets in it. None of those stupid little flying gnats decide to land on there and get itself stuck and dried in the paint. And also, if you have cats, you are doubly hoping that your cat does not decide to jump inside that painting and trek. Come here. Speak of the devil. You have to hope that these little love bugs do not get in it because they will track it all over the house, besides ruining your painting. I was actually doing painting at a friend's house. Shout out to Ben and Barbara. I love you guys, and I hope you still love me even after one of their adorable little fur balls decided to step into the painting because I left it there to dry. They were very sweet. They were actually concerned that I was worried about the ruined painting. I was like, no, I'm more concerned and terribly sorry that now you have little acrylic paw prints in your carpet. But apparently Barbara was very nice, and it was a good learning curve on how to get acrylic paint out of carpet. So need to hit her up for advice on that. All right, it's time for me to go get dinner ready and go to the gym. So I hope you had a fantastic day. If you're doing anything artsy, I'd love to see it, talk about it, share in the comments. Bye.